My name is David Stockman. You may know me as Ronald Reagan's budget director. I've been a member of Congress, an investment banker at Salomon Brothers, a best-selling financial author, and an original partner of the world's largest asset management firm, Blackstone. All my life, I've told the truth about the jackasses and con artists running our country into the ground and blowing the largest financial bubble in history. I personally made millions in this rigged system following two personal rules. Number one, don't suffer fools gladly. And number two, don't really care about hurting people's feelings. The key thing is honesty. So if you're easily offended, exit this video now, because this isn't for you. I'm filming this warning for one reason and one reason alone. I believe a dangerous trillion-dollar financial earthquake is going to be triggered in the stock market very soon. And barely anyone in the fake news is talking about it. Yet when this financial turmoil is set off, a lot of unaware investors will lose a lot of money. But I'm not telling you to run for the hills or buy gold or mope about it. Instead, I want to show you how to capitalize on it, and right now. You see, the few who understand the carnage that's coming right now have the opportunity to reap huge profits with as little starting capital as just a few $100s. And all potentially starting by August 1st, just a few days from now. Even better, I have the one tool that could point you to the exact trades you should make to pull down the biggest possible gains. This trading tool adds an important degree of certainty to your strategy that most investors simply do not have. Let me explain. I'm filming this video from my apartment on the 19th floor of a Manhattan high-rise on the Upper East Side. What you see behind me, just out this big window, is the perfect representation of the bubble about to pop. It's an eerily similar crisis trigger to what caused the 2008 financial crisis. Can you see it? It's across the East River right behind me. It's a junkyard for cars, and its twisted metal, rusting fenders, and hellhole state is the perfect metaphor for a massive financial bubble that's ready to pop. We're talking here about subprime auto loans. Now, if subprime loans rings a bell, it's because they were the exact problem that caused the housing crash and financial crisis in 2007 and 2008. Subprime loans are when a moronic banker gives money to a person that doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of paying it back. Now, normally, two idiots making foolish financial decisions isn't a big deal. But there are over 1 trillion of these auto loans, many of them subprime. Take a look at the chart. This has become a big threat. And though car dealers near you may seem to be doing okay, and your neighbor might have a brand new ride he's proud of, something's very wrong in today's auto industry and in the U.S. economy. In the past few years, millions of people have bought shiny new cars that they simply cannot afford. And the repo man is about to knock on their door with a vengeance. Don't take my word for it. Here's one auto loan advertisement I found online. Read it. The car buyer needs no income, no consignor, no down payment. And they can have bad credit or a history of bankruptcy, but their loan will be approved in 60 seconds, and approval is guaranteed. What mentally handicapped person thinks this will end well? Let me be very blunt. A massive financial bubble has been developing for years in the auto sector, and it's coming to a head right now. Very soon, starting on August 1st, I believe this bubble will start to pop in a crisis I call Carmageddon. And mark my words, what's about to hit America's auto sector will definitely be Carmageddon. Values of new cars, used cars, and rental cars could plummet. Inventories of new and used cars could swell up and sit idle in parking lots. Car dealers could shut down. Auto loans could crash in value. And car manufacturers and auto stocks could take a hard fall. Many of auto sector stocks have already fallen hard in the past few months. U.S. News and World Report writes, for instance, just when you thought the economy is safe again, the ghost of subprime loans is back. This time it's haunting the auto sector and doesn't bode well for automotive stocks. Yet I believe you haven't seen anything yet. In fact, my sources say that this Carmageddon could hit full force just days from now on August 1st. And if I'm being brutally honest, that's great news for you. Times of turmoil, like when subprime loans caused the market to crash last time during the 2008 crisis, were some of the best moments to make a fortune. Savvy crisis investors who knew what trades to make in the face of a subprime loan meltdown had the opportunity to turn every $1,000 into as much as $29,390 in a matter of months. This time will be no different. And the reason I'm so certain of all this is simple. I've honed a tool that can, with 89.8% certainty, tell you which particular stocks in the market are set to crash hard. And right now that tool is flashing bright red on the auto sector of the American economy. All hell is about to break loose in this corner of the market. And when it does, it'll spread to other investments, probably some that you own, and it will spread like wildfire. And according to my sources, it could all be triggered as soon as August 1st, just days from now. But here's the good news. For investors who understand the situation and buy one simple type of investment, they could use this August 1st event and others after it to generate returns as high as 300% or even more. I've identified 3 specific trade opportunities, and if you play them right, they could easily turn a $1,000 investment into a fortune. The key is a simple tool most investors have never heard of, one that knows with 89.8% certainty which stocks are about to crash. Now let me explain. Professional investors have profited from market crashes for decades. There's nothing new about that. For example, while everyday investors were watching their retirement accounts evaporate after subprime loans triggered the 2007 and 2008 meltdown, a trader helped Goldman Sachs make $51 million in one single day when the market crashed. And Zach S., a hedge fund manager, made $1 billion when oil stocks collapsed in 2014. And while most investors got creamed in the tech bubble bust, John Templeton, another hedge fund manager, made $90 million betting against tech stocks in the year 2000. As you can see, betting against garbage stocks can be very lucrative. The problem is these types of strategies have been virtually off limits to everyday investors. That's because picking which stocks will go up and which ones will crash can be an impossible task. There are literally thousands and thousands of data points to analyze every single day. Just look at this actual reporting from one of the publicly traded companies in the U.S. If you're not a finance expert, how can you make sense of all these numbers? And that's just for one single stock. Now multiply that single sheet you just saw by 6,256, because that's how many U.S. listed companies there are out there trading in the market every day. You could spend all your waking hours crunching the numbers and analyzing economic reports, and it would still be hard to pinpoint the garbage stocks. But here's the good news. You don't have to spend hours reading financial statements. You don't have to analyze PE ratios, and you don't need to look at economic forecasts. I've narrowed the whole process down to one single number. That's the number 30. I call this number the bubble score, and it's produced by a proprietary scoring algorithm. Based on backtesting, it can tell you with 89.8% certainty which stocks are bubbles ready to pop. Simply put, if a stock has a score below 30, it means it's garbage. It's going to crash. And if you place one simple bet, you could make an absolute fortune when shares of the company collapse. Let me show you how it works with some examples. If you had looked at a company called nownow Communications back in early 2008, it would be hard to know if the stock was a dud or a stud. You could have read its 116-page annual report. You could have crunched a bunch of financial ratios and spent days analyzing the complicated balance sheet of this company. And I bet you'd still be more confused than ever. But the truth is, you didn't have to do any of that. All you needed to know is that the company had a bubble score below 30. Take a look. This is a screenshot of Now's bubble score. As you can see, on a scale from 0 to 100, it had a pathetic score of 11. That meant it was a huge bubble ready to pop. No wonder the stock plunged 63%. Yet had you placed one simple trade, you could have pocketed an incredible 588% gain. We're talking about turning every $1,000 into $6,880, every $5,000 into $34,400, and every $10,000 into $68,880, all in a matter of months. And all you had to know is that this stock had a score below 30. It really couldn't be easier. Or look what happened to a company called Penn National Gaming. Back in 2008, you could have read dozens of boring reports from Wall Street analysts. You could have analyzed the company's cash flows, and you could have spent hours crunching all the numbers on this income statement. But the truth is, you didn't have to do any of that complex and time-consuming work. Had you looked at the company's bubble score, you could have known there was an 89.8% chance the stock was a bubble ready to pop. Because on a scale of 0 to 100 again, it scored only 23. Take a look. With such a low bubble score, it was obvious that its shares were a bug looking for a windshield. Soon the bubble popped and shares of the company plunged 74%. Yet while unwary investors lost almost everything, you could have made a fortune simply by placing one trade. In this case, the move was good enough for gains of 722%. But let's ratchet up our starting capital on this one. Say you put $10,000 into this trade. You could have walked away with $82,200. Every $20,000 would have turned into almost $165,000. Are you starting to see the profit potential here? Potentially profiting from crashing stocks of companies that get slaughtered during Carmageddon will be no different. You simply need to look for those auto sector stocks that have a low bubble score. Place one simple trade on them and have a chance to collect your gains. For example, look at the cash flow statement of Greenbrier companies. Unless you're a professional accountant, it would be really hard to know exactly what those numbers meant back in 2007. But you didn't have to waste your time poring through this dense financial statement. All you really needed to know is that the company had a low bubble score. Again, take a look. On a scale of 0 to 100, it scored 27 in early 2008. With such a low score, this meant the stock was doomed. Sure enough, the bubble popped, and a few months later, the stock was already trading 78% lower. But had you placed one simple bet, you could have turned a small stake of $1,000 into $7,050. I hope by now you're starting to see how this simple score could help you make a life-changing fortune. With an accuracy ratio of 89.8% showed in a backtest, there's no better way to tell which stocks are bubbles ready to pop. Now, like any other investing strategy, there is clearly risk, and gains are not guaranteed by any means. Still, this is the best way I've ever seen to make massive profits as the stock market falls. But I have a confession to make. I didn't develop this system myself. In fact, this is an award-winning system used by traders and professional investors on Wall Street every day. As market media says, this system has seen a rapid uptake from traders and investors in recent months. And even though this is not advertised to everyday investors, it has already won multiple awards, and it has even been voted the best trading software on Wall Street. It's really a shame that this is virtually out of reach for everyday investors. But here's the good news. As a former Wall Street insider, I'm one of the investment research professionals with access to this incredible system. See, as I mentioned earlier, many people perhaps know me as the former U.S. budget director under President Reagan, but few people know that after I left the White House, I built a 20-year career on Wall Street. From working at the investment bank Salomon Brothers, where I helped manage what was one of the biggest trading houses on Wall Street, to becoming one of the original partners at the $36 billion private equity firm, the Blackstone Group, to starting my own private equity fund. I was even an executive at a large auto parts company, giving me unique insights into the causes of this Carmageddon. I've seen it all in my many years, and I can tell you this is the most reliable and simple system I've seen. Frankly, I don't think it's fair that everyday investors don't have access to this system. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can leverage this system to make a fortune from this imminent market crash. Starting in just a few minutes, here's the first thing you should know. The bubble score is based on a little-known formula that can predict with a back-tested 89.8% accuracy which stocks are about to crash. This formula was never shown to the public in a format like this. Before I show it to you, keep in mind that while this formula might seem complex, you'll never have to crunch any numbers to use it, because it's already built into the system. Here it is. The A in the equation stands for the earnings score. The B stands for valuation score. The C stands for the momentum score, and the D stands for the smart money score. I won't bog you down with all the details, but here's the gist of it. The formula works so well because it focuses on the four main drivers of stock prices. If earnings are unsustainable, the company gets a low earnings score. If the stock is absurdly expensive, it gets a low valuation score. If share prices are already falling, it gets a low momentum score. And if insiders and institutional investors are selling, it gets a low smart money score. Throw all these four scores into the formula, and that's how you get what I call the bubble score. Every single day, this system calculates the bubble score for 30,000 stocks around the globe and spits out one single number. If that number is below 30, it means the stock is heading for a big, big plunge. And because this score system has shown a back-tested 89.8% accuracy ratio, it's the best way to profit from crashing stocks. You see, this simple score showed a remarkable accuracy ratio during the 2008 crash. That was the last time the subprime loans tanked the economy. 89.8% of stocks that scored below 30 ended up crashing. On average, these stocks dropped by 62%. That means in order for you to profit from the crash, you just need to take two simple actions. First, find stocks with a bubble score lower than 30. And second, place one simple kind of trade that goes up in value when the stock crashes. Let me show you how this score works in real life. Home builder Cal Atlantic Group had a bubble score of 11 in early 2007. Take a look. Here's what happened next. Shares lost 92% of their value in a matter of months. But had you placed one simple trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $6,800. Or take Crocs, the company that produces those ugly plastic shoes. In October 2007, it scored 18. Guess what happened next? 6 months later, shares were trading 86% lower. But you could have made 6 times your money from this collapse. Another company that had a bubble score of 18 back in 2008 was iron ore producer Vale. Take a look again. That bubble score was a good reason to bet against the company's shares, because by the end of the year, they were already trading 61% lower. Had you placed one simple trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $10,210. Same thing with Lazy Boy. It had a bubble score of 25 in early 2008. In the following months, the stock went on to lose 72% of its value. Had you placed one simple bet, you could have turned $1,000 into $8,833. Or look at MGM Resorts International. It had a bubble score of 18 in January 2008. No wonder it crashed 80% during that year. While clueless investors lost almost everything, you could have turned $1,000 into $6,900 in less than a year. With these 6 examples alone, had you invested $1,000 in each play, you could have walked away from the crash with $37,743. Of course, I can't guarantee your profits will always be this big. But frankly, I think these results speak for themselves. All you had to do is find stocks with a bubble score below 30 and place one simple trade that I'll show you in just a second. Now, as much as I like these gains, you could make even more money with a simple tweak to this score system. I'll tell you more details in just a moment, but first let me show you exactly why this coming Carmageddon and stock market crash is set to begin as early as August 1st. I've shown you how to target the garbage stocks, and you know when to open the trade. But that's not why I'm so excited about this particular opportunity. You see, we've been handed the date on a silver platter. Circle August 1st on your calendar. That's the date one of the auto sector's most important reports is released. I expect the results to severely shock and disappoint Wall Street and investors. When that happens, investors could flee these auto stocks like the bubonic plague. And I've identified 3 stocks in particular that are going to fall spectacularly as a consequence of the report helping to spark Carmageddon. This means you have a huge opportunity to place the right trade and potentially make a fortune over the coming days. As more and more subprime car buyers fail to pay their car loans, their cars could be repossessed and a flood of used cars could hit the market to be sold. This glut could have a huge impact on American dealer lots, the resale or trade-in value of your car, and much more. The financial press and headlines tell you all you need to know about what's coming. Forbes writes, quote, subprime auto loan payments slowing. Bloomberg says, quote, sloppy subprime loans will deepen auto woes. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, said, someone is going to get hurt, unquote. Investing.com published an article with the title, quote, the subprime 2.0 bubble is about to burst, unquote. Bloomberg writes, quote, another warning sign flashes for subprime auto loans, unquote. CNBC writes, quote, lenders hit the brakes on subprime auto loans, unquote. Even the eggheads from the New York Federal Reserve issued an analysis saying, quote, the worsening in the delinquency rate of subprime auto loans is pronounced, with a notable increase during the past few years. And CBS News writes, you remember what happened to all those subprime home loans several years ago? Well, that's why some on Wall Street are wondering if the auto sector is heading for a Carmageddon. The bottom line is simple. A whole sector of the American economy is set to crash. Too many people bought too many cars with too much borrowed money. It's that fundamental. And I firmly believe the consequences will be Carmageddon. And when it hits, many investors could lose a lot of money. But those who use my bubble score system and place the proper trades ahead of time could stand to potentially make a fortune. And remember, I believe Carmageddon could start as soon as August 1st, when one of the auto sector's most important reports is released and shocks Wall Street. Recall, in the past, when bubble stocks were crashing, you could have made $10,770 when the bubble on CMGI popped, $7,080 when the bubble on Itron Inc. popped, $6,880 when the bubble on Nuance Communications popped, $8,220 when the bubble on Penn National Gaming popped, $7,050 when the bubble on Greenbrier popped. If you miss those opportunities, don't worry. Carmageddon, and specifically August 1st, could be your next big chance. And this time, I expect even bigger gains. Yet, as much as I like the triple-digit gains I've shown you so far, there's an easy way for you to take profits to the next level. You see, if you target car and auto companies with a score below 30, I have no doubt you could make a killing in the coming days. But if you only focus on the worst of the worst, if you only target companies with a score below 10, then we're talking about the chance to hit the jackpot. Because stocks that have a score below 10 are pretty much worthless. They're the biggest bubbles out there, and they're virtually guaranteed to be obliterated during Carmageddon, or any stock market crash for that matter. When that happens, you could make an absolute fortune. Let me prove it to you. Take a look at what happened with a company called OSI Systems. In early 2008, it had a very low bubble score of 8. Now that's really pathetic. You had to be delusional to invest in this crappy stock. Sure enough, shares tumbled that year, and it lost more than half of its value in a little more than 2 months. Yet during that short period, you could have made a fortune, because that move was big enough for a 1,786% gain with one simple trade. That's more than 17 times your money. It's enough to turn $1,000 into $18,860, all in a little more than 2 months. Or look at American Outdoor Brands Corp. It was another bubble more than ready to pop. Take a look. With a ridiculous bubble score of 5, it was destined to crash. Here's what happened next. A year later, shares were trading 86% lower. But you didn't have to lose a single penny from this collapse. In fact, by placing one simple trade, you could have turned $1,000 into $23,200. Invest $5,000 and now you're looking at a payout of $116,000. And you didn't have to know anything about the company. All you had to know is that it had one of the lowest bubble scores out there. Or look at the giant casino operator, Las Vegas Sand. In 2007, the retards from the mainstream media thought the company had, quote, seemingly unlimited growth prospects in Macau, the most lucrative gambling market in the world, unquote. Shares were trading at nearly $150 at the time. But take a look at the company's bubble score in September 2007. While clueless investors thought there was nothing wrong with the company, it had a bubble score of 1. It couldn't get worse than that. With the lowest bubble score possible, this company was worth less than a roll of toilet paper, and investors were destined to lose all their money. That's exactly what happened when shares dropped from $150 to just $150 per share, a crash of 99%. The company almost went bankrupt. But had you placed one simple trade during that bloodbath, you could have made an incredible 2,839% gain, enough to turn $1,000 into $29,390, or $5,000 into $146,950, and $10,000 into almost $300,000. And all you needed to know was that the company had a bubble score of 1. Can you see how easy this can be? Targeting companies with a bubble score as close to or below 10 could be the quickest and most predictable way of making a fortune. And there couldn't be a better time to target these garbage stocks than today. To help you get started, my team and I have already done all the homework for you. We've identified 3 car and auto companies that fit my bubble score criteria. I believe they're going to get crushed in the coming Carmageddon. In the past, betting against companies with such a low score has created the opportunity for incredible gains of 1,785%, 2,220%, and even 2,839%. That's the kind of potential we're talking about with bubble scores under 10. You'll find all the details on how to profit from these 3 companies inside your free report, 3 revved up trades for triple-digit gains from Carmageddon. I'll also send you a second bonus report called Bubble Scores Below 10 and Profits Above 1,000%. But that's just the beginning. You see, I will be publishing these bubble scores in my research service called David Stockman's Bubble Finance Trader. If you've read my best-selling books, you know we're facing the end of what I call the bubble finance era. Because of the Fed's easy money policy, many stocks are now in huge bubbles. Zero interest rate policy kept those zombie companies alive for years. But now that the Fed is raising interest rates, those bubbles are ready to pop. And Carmageddon could claim the market's first victims as it spreads through the market. And to help you potentially profit from the situation, my team will be scanning the stock market for the weakest companies out there. And here's how it works. First, my team and I will use this proprietary system developed by Wall Street professionals to find stocks with a bubble score below 30. Then I'll do my own analysis of each opportunity, and I'll find the simplest way to play them for big gains. I'm talking about money-making trading opportunities you won't find anywhere else. Finally, I'll send you emails, sometimes as often as once a week, with the exact instructions on how to bet against these garbage stocks, the exact setup, what trade to make, and when to get in and out safely and easily for the biggest gain. Bubble Finance Trader is the only place where I'll make these bubble scores available. It's the only place where I'll show readers how to bet against these stocks and profit from their downfall. So far, the success has really been astonishing. Here's what readers are saying about my Bubble Finance Trader. Quote, I made $38,880 on the Tesla trade. I've recommended Bubble Finance Trader to my friends a number of times. Don B. David Stockman's analysis is incredibly thorough, insightful, and prescient. His trade recommendations are uncanny. If there was one investing newsletter to read and act on, it ought to be Bubble Finance Trader. Eric H. I've made approximately $30,000 in total. David Stockman is the real McCoy. Pat M. David's trades so far have been 100% spot on and huge money makers in short periods of time. You cannot conceive of better trade ideas than his. Good job, David. Brian H. I'm saving up for a new home. I've made huge returns in only a few months. 52.3% on WETF, 376.5% on IBB, 133% on Tesla. Benjamin D. The gains are fast, huge, and consistently correct. Timothy Q. I've made $3,128 from the IBB trade and $2,428 from the Tesla trade. It really works. Myron G. You've got the best and biggest winning streak among all the Agora publications I get. This is probably the best insurance you can buy against getting wiped out during any upcoming market troubles. Amir I. This has been a godsend for my portfolio. I've never hit home runs, actually more like grand slams, in investing until I came across bubble finance. Thank you, David. Frank P. I'm very happy with this service. The profit on one trade more than covers the subscription cost of the service. Davis D. David has phenomenal insight in the markets and his trade recommendations have been impressive. Patrick H. I've received countless notes like these over the past months, while my Bubble Finance Trader readers are already positioned to make a killing from Carmageddon. I know most people still won't know what to do, which is why I'd like to invite you to join us today. And to help you get started, I'll also send you a free report called the Bubble Finance Trader's Handbook. It should take you less than 10 minutes to read it. Inside, you'll find why the bubble score is the most reliable way of knowing which stocks are ready to crash, why my strategy can actually be safer than how most people trade stocks. In fact, it can reduce your risk exposure by 25 to 50% if used correctly. It shows you how to use the bubble score strategy in your online brokerage account. It shows you how to make these kinds of trades within your individual retirement account or IRA. And it shows you how to try every single trade recommendation without risking a penny of your own capital on investing. Of course, I'll send you the special report, 3 revved up trades for triple-digit gains from Carmageddon. And the second bonus report, bubble scores below 10 and profits above 1,000%. Inside, you'll find all the details on 3 companies that have just scored below 10. More important, I'll show you exactly how to profit from their imminent crash by placing one single trade. Those 2 reports are yours free as soon as you join Bubble Finance Trader. What does a subscription to my Bubble Finance Trader normally cost? I can tell you it's not one of those $49 a year deals. But I also can tell you this. It will cost you only a tiny, tiny fraction of what others are paying to access this system. In fact, if you know who to call and what to say, you could gain access to this system too. But it will cost you $10,200 a year. Take a look at our invoice for proof. For most everyday investors, paying more than $10,000 a year for a trading system is out of the question. And of course, you would still need to figure out exactly how to use the computer system. Because remember, this system itself doesn't offer investment recommendations. That's why I'm so excited with Bubble Finance Trader. It's the only research service in the world that gives you access to data from this score system and specific trade recommendations. There's no guesswork. I'll tell you which stocks have a low bubble score, when and how to open the trade to profit from those stocks crashing, and when to take your profits. I even had to hire a small team of analysts to help me run everything. That's why I've mentioned earlier, this is virtually out of reach for most people. In other words, it costs me more than $150,000 a year to perfect everything and employ an entire team around what you've been seeing today. But you won't have to pay anywhere near the $150,000 cost per year. I'll give you all the details of this special pricing in a moment. First, though, I understand you might still have some questions. So let me answer some of the most frequently asked questions right up front. Your first question is probably, will I be shorting stocks? The answer is no. Shorting stocks is too risky. I found a better way to profit from these collapses. When you short a stock, you lose money every time the stock goes up. In theory, the upside of any stock is unlimited. That means when you short a stock, your loss is also potentially unlimited. As a conservative investment analyst, I can't take that risk. That's why I never recommend shorting stocks. Instead, we go beyond stock investment. See, we found a much safer way to bet against stocks, one that limits your risk. It's a unique way to supercharge your returns from these market collapses with just one simple trade. I explain everything inside your free guide, The Bubble Finance Trader's Handbook. Next, you're probably wondering if you need to have a lot of money to execute on my trade recommendations. The answer is no. In fact, you can get into some trades with as little as $500. Because we're not buying or shorting stocks, you don't need to have a lot of money to open a trade. Many of the trades I recommend require just a few $100s to get started. Of course, you can dial up the size of your investment to potentially any level. The more you invest, the higher your gains will be on the winners. It's totally up to you. But my point is you can get started with very little capital. And if you're not a big risk taker and are worried this research service isn't for someone like you, then know that I specifically designed this for people who do not want to take excessive risk. My system can actually help you reduce your risk of suffering a devastating loss during the coming crash. Imagine if you suffered a 50% collapse right before you retire. It could ruin your golden years. Don't let that happen to you. Most investors have been brainwashed. They believe there's nothing they can do when the market crashes. That's simply not true. As I showed you today, you could make a fortune when stocks are plunging. All you need to do is target stocks with a bubble score below 30 and place one simple trade. With this bubble score, you'll know with a back-tested 89.8% certainty which stocks will collapse. Having said that, it's important to note that, like any other strategy, there are risks involved. As with any historical data testing, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. I can't promise that every trade will be a winner, which is why we use a very strict risk management strategy that allows you to limit your losses to an absolute minimum. And if you target car and auto companies with a bubble score below 30, I have no doubt you'll make a lot of money during the coming Carmageddon. That's why I've prepared a new report for you. It's called 3 Revved Up Trades for Triple-Digit Gains from Carmageddon. And if you target the companies with the lowest scores out there, the ones with a score below 10, then you could make a life-changing fortune. I've already identified 3 companies with a score below 10 for you to examine. All the details are inside your second special report, Bubble Scores Below 10 and Profits Above 1,000%. As I showed you today, in the past, companies that had such a low score created the opportunity to grab gains as high as 2,839%. And you could be in the trade less than 15 minutes from now. This report is yours free as soon as you join Bubble Finance Trader. Just to recap, here's everything you'll get. Remember, a subscription to the score system alone costs $10,200 a year, and that's without any investment recommendations at all. Pile on the team that I've built to analyze and monitor the system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it all adds up to more than $150,000 in value. For that reason, I could easily charge $10,000 or more for a subscription to Bubble Finance Trader. But thanks to my partnership with Agora Financial, I've negotiated special pricing for my research advisory. The published price for Bubble Finance Trader is just $3,000 per year. That's more than $7,000 lower than what others are paying to access the score system. And consider this, one trade alone could more than pay for your entire annual subscription. That's what happened to Skip G, one of my readers. He sent me a note saying, quote, I made $6,000 on WETF trade, excellent service. It took only a week for Kenneth W. to make more than enough to cover the subscription cost. He says, quote, I closed the trade for a profit of $4,101 today, all in 7 days. And Scott S. says, I've made $8,277 so far, worth the money. Easily has paid for the price of admission. I'm using some of the profits to pay for a trip to Cancun. As you can see, the regular price of $3,000 is already a bargain. But I understand you don't fully know me yet. I know I might need to earn your trust first. So I'm going to do two very special things for you right now. First, I'm going to lower the price even more, down to $2,000. That's a full $1,000 off the already discounted price. And I'm also going to give you a best-in-class bonus performance guarantee. Let's cover that right now. Aside from offering you a deeply discounted price, I want to offer you two guarantees to make sure you're happy with Bubble Finance Trader. You have the next 60 days to test drive my research advisory and decide if it's right for you. If for whatever reason you're not completely happy with your results following Bubble Finance Trader, you can call or email my team and cancel up to the 60th day and receive a complete and courteous refund. We'll give you a prompt refund, no questions asked. All you end up paying is a small 10% processing fee. The reason for the fee is simple. There are people that simply buy the service, learn about the details of our proprietary system, grab the recommendations, and then cancel. We've simply poured too many resources into this project to let these deadbeats get away with that. This 10% fee protects the serious readers who choose to invest in my research while also discouraging fraud. The second guarantee is that our model portfolio will give you the chance to double your money at least 6 times over the next year. If we don't, just give us a call to claim a second year of Bubble Finance Trader on us, no charge to you. That's how confident I am on this Bubble Score system. It's the only way I know of predicting a stock will fall with back-tested 89.8% certainty. Like I showed you today, using the Bubble Score system, you could have made $10,770 when the bubble on CMGI popped, $7,080 when the bubble on Itron Inc. popped, $6,880 when the bubble on Nuance Communications popped, $8,220 when the bubble on Penn National Gaming popped, and $7,050 when the bubble on Greenbrier popped. There's another opportunity like this right now. Soon, when subprime auto loans start to default and unwind, investors could flee these car and auto stocks, and Carmageddon will have begun. There's no time to waste. It could start as soon as August 1st. This offer is for serious readers only. It's time for a decision. You can either do nothing and just watch as the stock market goes up in flames and your portfolio value evaporates, or you can use the coming crash to make a life-changing fortune. To get started, simply click the Subscribe Now button that you see below this video. Hitting this button does not obligate you to anything. You'll just be directed to another page where you can review all of the details of this special offer. So thanks for listening. Hope to see you on the other side.